Consolidating many of the thoughts and questions sent to us for this forum, people are tired of partisanship, recrimination, blame, and they're tired of recalls. Some of the things they'd like to see are, in Madison, between the parties, civility, communication, cooperation, openness, and respect. Senator, what needs to be done to make Wisconsin state government more politically functional?
I've been in the legislature, obviously, for a while. There are a number of people that served on the other side of the aisle that I have been good friends with over the years. I still have a number of Democrats that I work with on a regular basis from anything from how the Senate functions on all the way down to pieces of legislation. 96% of all the bills signed into law by Governor Walker this session are bipartisan. 96%. And I think that might be shocking to a lot of people sitting out in the audience, because the focus, oftentimes by the media, and rightfully so, because they're trying to get listeners and sell newspapers, is to focus on that small little piece that's left out there. Listen, I get along fine with John Erpenbach. I get along fine with Mark Miller. We're friendly. We talk outside of the Senate chamber. I've always said that this is something that I think has been overblown. And in this last session, sure, it's been very high profile. No one, I think, expected the state to become the tip of the spear on this discussion about unions and the taxpayers' ability to pay for the unions. But, ultimately, I hope that if we can get past these recalls, and what I'm hearing on the door-to-door right now, which is not necessarily what I heard when I was helping other senators in the first round of recalls, is enough already. We're sick of paying for recalls. We're sick of watching the TV, listening to the radio, and getting the direct mail on a regular basis. Enough is enough. And I'm hopeful that after June 5th, we can move on and move into a regular legislative schedule like we've operated under for the last 100 years in the Wisconsin State Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Ms. Compas, your feelings on this?
Well, I wish we could separate the right to recall from partisanship, but I guess I would like to address the right to recall first. I want to stress that democracy doesn't stop when we cast our ballots. It's a continual process. And we need to watch our leaders and hold them accountable. And this right is protected in our Constitution. What we're seeing here is a pattern of abuse of power and betrayal of trust. The senator broke the open meetings law. He forced his fellow legislators to sign secrecy pledges. And he didn't campaign on these major policies that he has imposed on our society. He didn't tell us he wanted to divide and conquer us. Recalls are extraordinarily difficult. Many recalls have been attempted, including the recent one of Senator Jauch, but most fail because they are so difficult. So that's how I feel about the right to recall. As far as partisanship, I think, things like forcing people to sign secrecy pledges and only allowing people to see certain information if they belong to a certain party does not help the bipartisan cause. The first thing I would do when I'm sworn in as senator, I guess, is shake Senator Schultz's hand. I really want to reach across the aisle to more moderate Republicans and see how we can work together on bills.
Thank you, Ms. Compas.
Well, first of all, I didn't break the open meetings law. I know the open meetings law inside and out. On that evening, the clerk, I know and everybody knows that the Senate rules, as they've been written and passed by the entire body, say that there is zero notice that needs to be given for a conference committee. Oh, and by the way, that is probably, that conference committee that evening in the Senate parlor is probably the most watched public meeting that has ever happened in the history of the state of Wisconsin. The idea that somehow that was done in secret is absolutely ridiculous. The other thing I'd just like to say is secrecy pledges. Every bill that's ever been run through the Wisconsin legislature has a period of time in when it's in drafting. And if you're elected senator of the 13th district, I'd like to hear what your pledge is on how you're going to handle the drafting process when people are brainstorming about what they want to do with a piece of legislation. If you don't have that protection, oh, by the way, which has been afforded by the Wisconsin Supreme Court on a case that was challenged under Senator Dave Zine, and the court said absolutely, legislators need a period of time in which they can discuss legislation before it's made public so that they can not be hurt by the idea of having an open exchange amongst the legislators. And it's like any other proposal that you might see. You have to have a period of time in which there's a creative process and people can give and take. That is exactly what happened with everything that was part of redistricting. The idea that it was done any different than the way it was done 10 years ago by the Democrats, which is exactly the way they did it, or 20 years before that, is ridiculous. We modeled the whole redistricting process off of what had been in place before. So you can continue to say that somehow I've manipulated and forced the idea that I would force Senator Mike Ellis to sign a secrecy pledge and he wouldn't understand what he's signing. You haven't met Mike Ellis. It's ridiculous.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
I actually watched the court session when Judge Sumi was deciding whether or not your actions broke the open meetings law. And I remember an aide testifying that she ran to post notice because she knew that time was limited. She knew that she needed to give 2 hours notice. She didn't quite make it. She did not make it in time. 2 hours notice was not given. The Supreme Court ruled that it was indisputable that proper notice was not given. And they said that the legislature could make up its own rules. Also, I think it's disingenuous to suggest that you always do things this way. These secrecy pledges were unheard of. I've seen them. No, I've seen them myself.
They were done 10 years before that.
You are named on attorney letterhead, and every Republican legislator was apparently forced to sign.
Yeah, and my brother, the Speaker, and I duped every Republican legislator into signing a secrecy document. You really believe that, Lori? You really believe that? Come on.
I didn't say that they were duped. I said that
they willingly did it.
I have read, and you can tell me if this is true. I have read that a legislator was welcomed into a room, shown two versions of a map, and said, this is the version of the map you'll get if you sign this pledge. This is the version that you'll get if you won't, and we'll run a Tea Party candidate against you. Is that true?
That is absolutely false and ridiculous.
I think we'll end it at that point and go to closing remarks. We'll begin with Ms. Compas.
Thank you all for being here this evening. I think that our discussion tonight has shown that the people of our district have never had a clearer choice between the entrenched power of a career politician and the grassroots energy of a citizen candidate. We're here tonight because the senator abused his power and betrayed our trust. He campaigned on jobs and economic development, but instead of jobs, he gave us divisive policies that polarized our state. We didn't ask him to roll back women's rights, but he did. We didn't ask him to roll back voting rights, but he did. We didn't ask him to roll back workers' rights, but he did. And in doing so, he turned neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend. He led the effort to execute a plan that was, in Governor Walker's words, designed to divide and conquer us, his constituents. As upsetting as these policies were, the process he followed was even worse. He shut down debate. He silenced our voices. He had absolute power, and he used it to hurt us. And last winter, 20,000 of his own constituents told me that they could not bear this to go on. They told me it was time to stand up for what's right. They told me they didn't want him anymore. I'm honored that the volunteers turned to me to serve instead, and I'll do my best to be worthy of their trust. I will be a senator who is open and accessible. I'll return the focus of our district to create jobs, fund education, and provide affordable health care. I'll help return to Wisconsin's best traditions of cooperation and civility in the legislature. And I'll be honored to serve as your voice in the Senate. As I've said from the beginning, this campaign is not about one person, and it isn't about one political party. It's about our shared belief that people should matter more than money. It's about our belief in open, honest government. It's about our belief that legislators should represent their constituents honorably. The people I've met during this campaign, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats, have shown me that there is so much more that unites us than divides us. This gives me great hope. I am offering you a clear choice. I ask for your vote on June 5th.
Quiet. Sit down, please. Sit down. Quiet. Thank you, Ms. Compas. Closing remarks, Senator Fitzgerald.
Thank you once again for putting this together this evening. I know that debates are difficult, not only because of timing, but the logistics of trying to pull it off. And in this politically charged environment, I know it was even more difficult than what it would be usually. I do believe that the legislature has some unfinished business, and I brought up those issues earlier, specifically mining and a venture capital bill that ultimately I think will be a job creator if we are able to create that community here in Wisconsin. I'm hopeful that we can tackle those issues sometime this summer prior to the November elections. But I believe that this recall and the recall of the governor and the lieutenant governor has got to be behind us. We need to move forward. And the way to move forward, I think, is to be able to put together what we believe would be a strong economic development plan and a job creation plan. The next generation, my family's here this evening as well, is counting on us to do that. They want to know where we're going to be in February of next year when the governor introduces his next budget. Are we going to eliminate that structural deficit? Are we going to have a balanced budget in the future? This election is about moving forward with a good fiscal package for the state of Wisconsin. Once again, thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you, Senator. For the benefit of those who are listening or watching this forum, it will be readily available for rebroadcast. And especially thank you, Senator Fitzgerald, Ms. Compas, for your participation. I think you both very clearly stated your positions, and you have given voters in the 13th District a clear choice on June 5th. And that concludes our forum.